Hi, I'm Reverend Cheryl Guess, and I'd like to invite you to this beautiful interview with my beloved Rene Biehl,
Aw.
who has been a friend of mine. We went through practitioner training together, and we've been friends ever since then. So, have a lot of fun together. And I really wanted to bring her on today, especially at this time of year, because Rene has some great credentials, which I'm going to get her to tell us about. She is a
Okay.
drug and alcohol counselor, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah. I was a wild child growing up and therefore bred a wild child, which was my daughter. And about when she turned 16, 17 years old, she started, doing recreational drugs and, partying and stuff like we all kind of did as kids, but it kind of got a little bit, heavier into it. And so, long story short, during that period of time, as you know, Cheryl, sometimes when people have, addictions or things that they don't want you to know about as a parent, they're not super kind to you, and there's a lot of chaos in that environment. So I started taking classes at the church to find peace throughout that chaos. And I was taking classes with, Dr. Joe and a lot of the other practitioners and ministerial people here at the center. And I decided to go all the way and become a practitioner through that. So, through what looked to be a challenge or a tragedy at the moment of my daughter getting into, addictive, connotations, it kind of came back in a positive way for me. And now she has 6 years clean, which I'm very proud of. And then I went back to school after becoming a practitioner to become a drug and alcohol counselor. And I work now with people with substance use disorders and kind of shed this teaching onto them as well.
So, what are you doing right now? I mean, what kind of work are you in? I know you're a counselor, but what are you doing? Groups? What are you doing?
I do groups with primarily younger population between like ages of like 18 to 28 younger to me, right? And so I run substance use disorder groups. We talk about spirituality, relapse prevention, all different kinds of stuff, being connected to source, and I kind of use this teaching to kind of bring them about to their authentic self.
Yeah, and that's what I was remember you saying at one time, that this teaching really is a powerful tool that you use without really making it religious or anything like that.
I do.
Yeah, so you build all these different kinds of platforms and different activities and stuff that they do. And so, could you tell us what was one of your favorite ones that you did?
Well, the activities are all kind of, I write all my own material in regards to doing groups. So it's not just printed off the internet. I kind of try to do a little mix of everything, from I use a lot of hip hop references like Cardi B or Lil Wayne, all the way to bringing my dog Hercules in and doing forgiveness, how dogs see you in life. So I kind of incorporate all different kind of mixtures of stuff. I think when it comes to addiction, most people in general look at it as a disease, which it can be categorized as a disease. But I take it a little step further, and I look at it as a dis-ease within self. When we are disconnected, whether that be to other people, to source, primarily God, we look outside of ourselves a lot of times to fill that void. Or if things have happened in childhood or in life that have caused trauma or, sadness, and we just feel like we don't have a friend that we could share that with or any connection. Alcohol or drugs are a friend that never says no, and it's always there. And, it can become a ritual, a coping mechanism, an unhealthy one in the end. And so that's kind of why I try to allow them to find their authentic self and their center, even however they look at their higher power in that way, in order to move forward as a more self-actualized person where they don't need this as a coping skill anymore.
Right. Oh, that's really great the way you do it.
Oh,
because
thank you.
You make it more innovative and you make it more fun. And so I think that at times really resonates with people better than just sitting there and saying you shouldn't do this, You're showing them
Right.
different ways to cope with life and coping skills, everything, right?
And making it fun in life, because let's face it, when you're having a few snorts or a few drinks with your friends, it's kind of fun. If you're smoking a little weed or doing something like that, that can be kind of fun, right? But then it becomes not fun. And then it becomes a problem where that's all you want to do. And then you start becoming isolated from the people that truly do love you and want the best for you, because they can see, that you're going down a path that isn't always the most righteous, if you will. So, it is a balance, but some people cannot balance that. And some people are kind of an all-in, and it becomes, destroys relationships, families, jobs, and it destroys self-esteem and self, because during those kind of times, sometimes we've all acted a fool when we've drank a little bit too much.
Oh,
so
no.
if you're doing that all the time, it can cause a lot of shame as well, which, makes and progresses even the disease even more through shame and guilt. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were going to talk today a little bit about protecting your sobriety during the holiday season. What do you do? It's a high-risk time of year when people, like, especially right now with what's going on in our country, they're feeling isolated, and we can't necessarily get together with family and friends. So seems like it would be really easy just to slip back into that kind of behavior or other behaviors that are even damaging. So what are some good coping skills or some good ways to deal with this season?
It is a very difficult time like no other, and I've noticed that addictions have gone up, suicides have gone up, domestic violence rates have gone up, because people are isolated, and like we talked about a little bit before, the isolation of it and sitting there drinking all day gives us something to do. We're bored, we don't feel good, we're sad, we have a disconnect, and that connects us to in a weird kind of way, right? But during the holiday times, it's emotional for people even without substance use disorder problems, with family. We're going to go over to, Grandma Betty's, and we know that Aunt Catherine's going to be there, tooting a couple drinks, and we can't have that. Or Grandma Alice is going to come up and tell you how big your butt looks in that jumpsuit that you picked out 2 weeks in advance to look beautiful at your family, just trigger you to make you feel bad. My thing is, if you are in recovery and you are going to go to a family gathering, to really be mindful, to not have expectations, but be mindful of it's kind of like a calculated expectations. Kind of pre-think about things, right? Because preparation will help you stay sober. And if you are working a program, I think it's good to go to a meeting. They have virtual meetings online. If they don't have, there's some meetings that are open, but there's a lot of virtual meetings online. And do even a bookend. Do a meeting prior to the party and a meeting the next day after the party. If you have a sponsor, offer a sponsor or a sober friend to go with you. That kind of keeps you accountable when you are there. Bring a prop. Bring your own, like if you're drinking Monster or a Diet Coke, or what my daughter does is, because she's out, she's younger, she's only 22, so she'll be out in a bar with her friends and they're all kind of drinking. She makes what they call a Sprite-tini, and she'll put it in a martini glass with a little cranberry and some 7-Up and put a lime in there so she can be festive. And nobody's like offering you, hey, do you want a beer?
Right.
Or offering you a drink that people don't know that maybe you are in recovery. So it kind of keeps you mindful, and you already have something in your hand so that people aren't offering you that,
Yeah.
Be accountable and have a friend, like a friend like you, that I would call and I would say, hey, Cheryl, I'm going to this party. I'm going to call you when I get home. It just holds you accountable. It holds you connected. I think those are some ideas that you can do if you are going to family gatherings.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, those are always kind of, no matter what, fraught with emotion,
It is.
and you get people together. I mean, that's one of the things that's really interesting about holidays, is that is when more family members either shoot or harm each other than any other
Right.
time of the year, because you're putting people together that don't necessarily
Right.
get along.
It's like the Capulets and the Montagues.
Yes.
Yes.
And then you've got but you've got to go because it's the family, and that's what reminds me of the one time that Dr. Joe said, just because you shared a womb doesn't mean you have to share a turkey.
Right.
So it's true, but it's hard to separate that dynamic. So what are some suggestions that you would have for people to just really, when, like, don't let them push your buttons kind of thing. So
Right.
do you have other ways, or can you think of any other way that they might be able to do it?
The thing is, unfortunately, we cannot control what other people do or say. We can only control our reaction to it. So preparation, right? Before you go to, we can call it preparation H, right? Preparation before the holidays, preparation H. You know what I mean? And I could say something about that, but I won't, okay?
No, don't.
I won't, I know, we're on camera. But I think that, when dealing with family, It is triggering. The holidays aren't like when you were 6 years old and it was just opening presents and eating turkey legs and running around the Christmas tree. We all have intertwined emotions now that kind of go into it, you know. So the only thing I can do and say about that is to set proper boundaries for self and do self-care. If you don't think that you can go, don't go. Saying no is a coping skill. I can't do that and maybe go to dinner with a friend or have a movie night at the house. I think also is to, like I said, bring someone with you that holds you accountable in that space, right? So that you're not being emotional or you can talk to somebody about it. I also think that, you know, we all have to learn that we can't take everything personally.
Right.
What other people say about us is about them in relation. It's really not about us. So
Right.
hold your head high. Know that if you've had an issue, even if it was the night before, you're not a bad person. It is what it is, and try to move forward in your goodness.
Right.
Right?
So part of it is what you're saying is kind of like one of the downfalls that you could fall into is just like beating yourself up for
Right.
feeling or reacting or doing something that happened during the holidays, and that seems like it would be another trigger, you know, that
Right.
you
And you
don't
know
beat
what?
yourself up.
Right, and it can be. And you know what? It's not just the holidays. Like sometimes you'll go, okay, you know what? Oh, I'm exhaling the next day. You know, I made it through that. I made it through Aunt Betty telling me my butt looked big. You know what I mean? I made it, man. And then you come home and you know what? I deserve a drink for that. There's always justification. So we also have to look at that too. Is like, you know, don't justify that. You did it, but it doesn't mean that you deserve a drink. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or, you know, whatever your drug of choice is. So we all have to look at that too and be mindful of it.
Right. Okay. So when you focus on others and be of service, that's one way of getting outside of yourself sometimes, don't you think?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. You know, and self-care.
Yeah.
Self-care. Do something like, you know, for me, most people that know who I am, I stay up till 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because I'm a writer and that's when I'm creative. So when I'm writing things for my groups or writing in my journal or whatever I'm doing, that's kind of when it comes about. So I don't like to do morning groups. I don't work in the morning a lot. I mean, even now, you know, it's in the afternoon kind of right now. So I just feel like take that time to be alone and with yourself and centered. Learn how, even if you're in addiction or not in addiction, to have some sort of grounding technique throughout the holidays or any day. I get up every morning, I do my prayer work, I do my deep breathing exercises, and then I go for a walk in nature. Be out, whatever it is that makes and feeds your soul, right? Whether it be music, whether it be writing, whether it just be being outside and being in God's blessing and God's art. If it's creating or painting or whatever it is, have some self-care during the holidays or any other time, I think is really important because it also feeds good self-esteem, makes you feel good, makes you feel worthy, makes you feel happy, you know? And I think being of service of others is the part of it, you know? As we kind of evolve as human beings, we kind of figure out, okay, I'm a divine expression of the one power. Now, how does God use me in this beautiful light? We're all here for a purpose.
Exactly.
Whatever that purpose is. And your purpose doesn't have to be, you know, you don't have to be a Mahatma Gandhi. You know, you don't have to be sitting on the mountaintop, you know, your purpose can be walking the neighbor's dog or just smiling at somebody at Albertsons because you don't know what they're going through. So it doesn't have to be this higher calling. It can just be always every day reinventing and being a better version of you. And that comes through service to others because you get to see the joy that you give others, which makes you feel good, right?
Right. Well,
So-
you know, one of the things that I was in Al-Anon.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I understand basically, you know, what's going on. But Al-Anon, what it taught me was that people that are not the drinker, they're the ones that actually become the control freaks. They're the ones that are trying to control every aspect of what's going on. And maybe sometimes it's just to keep that person from going off
Right.
and stuff. And so I've seen also that families or marriages break up after somebody becomes sober. Because no longer is that one person that was always propping them up. Now they want to take back their own power.
Right.
And the other person's not willing to give it up anymore because I've done this all my life, you know?
Right.
I've been taking care of you forever. And then it's like they don't feel like you're contributing anymore, that more it's a case of that you're taking something away from them.
Right.
And so that was a real eye-opener for me because I was married to an alcoholic. And it was just the fact that I was the one that was the control freak. You know, I thought I was helplessly spinning out there, that I had no control over what was going on in my life. But then I realized I was doing certain behaviors and doing things in order to keep the peace. And so I was never being authentic. And so that was the hard part about, being an Al-Anon and all that. It helped, not the hard part, the great part was that I found all this out. The hard part was seeing myself as that, so it was really kind of a difficult situation.
Well, codependency, and a lot of people that are in, have addictive behavior also have codependency, right? And even I was like that too. Let me tell you, girlfriend, okay? Because when I had a child that was 17 years old, and maybe she was out all night doing whatever she was doing, I was at home doing her homework, so that she wouldn't fail her classes. Or, I was trying to always micromanage, because you see this train coming of damage and you're just trying to manifest and make everything okay for somebody. But, my biggest teaching in this as a parent, and what this center has taught me, what Joe has taught me, is that every soul, and I use this in my day-to-day working with others too, every soul is on their own given path, right? And as a mother, we want the best for our kids. We love them. But they are not us. No. We are a vehicle for that soul to come through us. So we have to let them learn as best possible. And we can't control all of it. As much as we try, as much as we want that for them, we can't. So, you have to let go and let God. It is a surrender, and it is a process. And every soul has their story to tell from one chapter to another, so.
Right, and I've used that thought when working with people about, this is their journey.
It is.
It is their journey. It's not your journey. But as a mother, you're like, but I've been taking care of them since they were tiny, and I've always taken care of all their needs, and now I just want to continue to do that. So what you're saying is at some point you just have to let go and let God.
You have to let go and let God. I mean, you can... I'm not saying like ditch them, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying that you need to let them work it out sometimes, and that's the hardest part. When you see someone you love struggling, you want to fix it. Especially if you're a fixer. I know you're a fixer, I'm a fixer. So you want to fix it, but sometimes that's where the lesson comes, When we're kind of, I always say this, I always envision it to my clients. When you're in like a Ferrari ripping down the street, with some hot dish on the side, the music is bumping, the sun's in your face and the wind in your hair. Everything is fantastic. You're not really thinking how your life needs to change. It's when things come and hit the fan, so to speak, right? Is when you say, uh-oh, okay, now what do I do? What lesson am I learning here, and how can I move forward from it? So, it's all a learning curve. I think that we are, as they say, humans having a soulful experience, or soulful experience having a human experience, however you want to put it, that we're here to learn. That's our main thing, and to become the best version of ourselves through those learning possibilities. Yeah.
So even though we have good things that occur in our lives, and we think of that as being a positive thing, even the negatives have a positive outcome sometimes, because it's changing your behavior, or changing the way you think, or changing whatever needs to be changed. But you're right. If you don't, sometimes you have to fall down to figure out how to stand back up again. You know?
Or change your perspective about it. I always look at it like, if as horrible as I would never want my child to be an addict, I don't want that for any child or anybody for that matter. But from that, I would have never taken this path in my life. And I would have never met you. I would have never taken all the classes here. I wouldn't have had the insight to my daughter's addiction or things of that nature. I wouldn't have been able to help the people I help with this teaching. So it all came to be a blessing. It always is a blessing, we just don't see it. Right. So, you have to live it out to see how it all kind of unfolds. So, I think if you kind of just have to look at it a different way.
Well, and then also, I've heard also people that have said, I have done so many horrible things to my family, there's no way I can ever be close to them again. Or a mother that will say to me that this child has done so many horrible things, how can I ever feel the same again? So I think that what you have to do is just let go of the past if you really want to move forward. If you're going to stay in past behaviors and you did this in the past, you really can't move forward. It's like you're dragging that dead corpse behind you, you know?
Right.
And so part of it is also letting go and moving into the present moment and, you know, just kind of letting it unfold.
Right. Right. Because if you stay a prisoner to the past, you know, you have guilt and shame. We all have guilt and shame for things we do. But especially in addiction, because, you know, you steal from family members, you know, you sell yourself for things, your integrity, a lot of negative consequences happen, you know, and it normally ends, as they say, you know, in jail or hospitals or institutions, right? So you do a lot of things like that. And guilt is not always a bad thing. Guilt kind of says, oh, you know what, I screwed up, made me feel really bad and guilty, but I'm not going to do that again because I know how I feel. But when you have shame, shame is very different than guilt. Shame is, I hate myself.
Right.
So there's a lot of shame in addiction. So, you know, the shame, it's easy to say, just let it go. It's hard to let that go.
Right.
But how do you let that go? You do it by self-esteemable acts. That's why when anybody that's ever been in, you know, rehab, the first thing they make you do is you get up, you make your bed. Because it's an act that you're doing and you're setting forth the day, even if it's the smallest thing of making the bed, you've done an accomplishment that day. You know, and sometimes that's all they can do, especially when you're detoxing or you're not feeling well. So it's like every day, just try to do a little bit more outside of self to be service of others. Be kind to yourself. Forgiveness really starts here.
Right.
You know, if people aren't going to forgive you, they might not forgive you in your time.
Right.
They may never forgive you. They may hold on to that resentment, unfortunately, but again, you cannot control that. You can just, you know, ask for their forgiveness and move forward and try to make amends the best way possible. I remember when I was, I shouldn't say this, but I shouldn't say a lot of things sometimes.
Yeah, you should say it.
Yeah. But when I was younger, I had like a little stealing issue, okay? I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to go in here and just like maybe steal this sweater or, you know, put it in my handbag or whatever, right? And this is before the day, because I'm old, that they had those tags, right?
Oh.
So you could just put it in your purse and haul it out, right? And sometimes I would think in retrospect now, like, why would I ever do that stupid stuff that I would do, right? So whenever I can sometimes, you can't make amends to Nordstrom's or for stealing the things from other people as you move forward. But you can make amends in other ways. So maybe I'll see somebody in a restaurant and I'll buy them dinner, or I'll be in Target and I'll see somebody kind of looking through their handbag, maybe not having enough money, and I'll just pick up the tab for it and move forward. There are little things in life that you can make amends for that maybe have made you feel bad in the past.
Yeah, so paying it forward.
Pay it forward, yeah. Whatever you can do, and even if it's not monetary wage, there's so many opportunities out here, even in the desert, to serve and to be part of that mix and part of the community. Get yourself involved and kind of do that kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah, and now, well, a lot of people that have addiction problems or alcohol problems or what, it's because they were brought up in an alcoholic family environment.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes not. I'm not saying always, but so when you're clean and sober and you're around your family and they're not, it just really puts a strain on your relationship.
It can, yeah.
So what are some things that you can do to keep your family, but still keep your sobriety? I mean, I know you gave us some points on it.
That's a hard mix, because I have clients that have had horrendous things, I wouldn't say done to them, but by parents, bad choices, right? But they still love them.
Right.
We always, no matter what, still love our parents. Somewhere in there's that grain, right? So I think we're always, as children, trying to make our parents happy, try to do the right thing by them. And you want to be in touch with them. But sometimes if it's that difficult, your sobriety has to become first.
That's it.
It has to be. Sometimes before your relationships to your kids or family, because without the recovery, without the sobriety, all that's going to be debilitated anyway. So I think it's really important that sometimes you just have to set boundaries and say, I cannot be around that if you feel that you're not strong enough. Or here's another thing. Sometimes you'll go and people will be drinking and you think you are strong enough. Look at me, man. Like, I am the shizzle, right? Like, I went through this whole thing and like I made it. I'm good. You know what that means? Look at me. I can be around it now. And then sometimes you'll put yourself in an environment that I might be able to have one beer. Like maybe I can do this. You know what I mean? And then it kind of leads to 9 beers. And then the next thing you know, you're on the roll again.
Right.
So you also have to be very mindful. If you do not feel that you are capable of being around that, even if it is your family, you need to set boundaries and not be around it.
And so a lot of things we were talking about earlier, and I just want to bring this up, is about the seasonal affective disorder.
Oh, yeah.
SAD, about how the changing in the time and everything else can also be a trigger.
It can.
When you're, it's dark at 4:30 in the
Oh,
afternoon.
are you kidding me? Come on, honey,
Oh.
I can't take it.
It's like, it must be happy hour somewhere.
I know.
Yeah.
But remember when you were little, you loved it because it meant you could go trick-or-treating?
Yes.
Yes, but now, no.
No, that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But could you just tell us a little bit about what you know about SAD and or seasonal affective disorder?
Yeah, it's just sometimes it is a disorder, and a lot of people are akin to it, that when it gets kind of dark like that, or it's the winter months, it kind of gets gloomy, and you get like an Eeyore. I call it like an Eeyore, right? You go from a Tigger to an Eeyore, and you get kind of really sad. So in addition to the holiday times, this is kind of, it can also bring about that co-occurring disorder. And there are a lot of different co-occurring disorders, and I'm not talking, people always say, oh, mental health, we don't want to talk about mental health. There's such a stigma about mental health. It doesn't mean you're a crazy lunatic running down the street with no underwear on, okay? It means the fact that sometimes people have like bipolar disorder, some people have anxiety, some people have like schizophrenia, some people have all different kind of things that are, they try to medicate with drugs and alcohol themselves because they don't want to say, I'm feeling this way. And especially with this COVID, I find myself even, and I'm kind of a Tigger. I'm normally really kind of upbeat.
Yeah.
I even find myself a little introspective and a little bit sad about the holidays or not being able to travel during this time. So we need to watch our mental health. That's really a crucial thing, especially during the holidays, because that can really come up, especially with anxiety, depression. All those things can come up. Sitting in the house all the time and not being able to get that pent-up energy out. So just be mindful of it. That's all I'm saying. Don't focus on it. Don't ruminate over it, but really be mindful of your mental health. It's a very important component right now.
Well, it's one of the things that we had talked about at one point was that there's things that you can still do during COVID, and like taking walks like you're doing, and even though the gyms are closed and stuff like that, there's hiking, and you can actually, even though they haven't opened the pools, I was just reading on the Mayo Clinic website some activities that you can do outside, because I'm an activities director and I have no activities, and I feel like I'm superfluous now, I have nothing, what am I doing at work even?
Right.
But some of it was like hiking or bike riding, or even you can take hikes with friends. You just have to social distance and wear your mask. So there are activities that you can do outside that are really safe. I mean, according to Mayo Clinic, that are really good, because what they were explaining was that the droplets in a room tend to stay in the room, and that's how you can pick it up if if you're close contact with people.
Right.
But outside, they disperse so quickly that the chances of it affecting you is so minor. So don't you suggest that maybe if you do some kind of activity, some kind of exercise or anything, does that help it a lot? Or
get your butt out moving. Get the mask on and get out moving. You know what? That's my jam, because I really feel too it releases dopamine, and that's, when you're using, it's not going to release it like if you were smoking methamphetamines. Okay, let's be clear about that. But it does release endorphins and all the good things. The serotonin. When you're meditating, that's another thing. Take some quiet time and meditate. The thing when you're praying, you're speaking to God. When you're meditating, you're listening to the inner voice of God. Do a little meditation. If you're a writer, do some journaling. Get a book. There's so many cool webinars, or they can take online paint classes if you're creative and you feel like you just want to do something fun. Get out there and be creative. You can do this. We're all creative expressions of the one divine power. So get your booty moving and show God a good time. Just because it's COVID doesn't mean that we can't have fun. We just have to be mindful about the fun we have.
Yeah. So, do you see this as you're going to continue in this line of work, or is there something else that you want to do, or anything else that interests you? I know you have so many interests, and I have never done so many fun things as I have with you.
Aw, thanks.
Jeez, we've done so. Some of them are even crazy, almost, but not
Right.
crazy illegal or anything, but just,
Close.
wow, what were we doing? But.
I don't know where God calls me. I've kind of felt like a shift through all this this stuff, because I'm usually running and gunning and out all the time, and I'm always doing. I like to throw myself in the mix, anything from like a paint class, like a normal paint class, or a cool meditation, or an art museum, all the way to midget wrestling. Okay. So I put myself, that's my favorite thing to do, is just kind of throw myself in kind of a crazy or whatever wonderful environment and see how you just respond to it, right?
Right.
So I really don't know. I kind of keep my my hands open to God, and and use me as best possible. I'm pretty sure that I'll probably stay in the somewhat of this format for right now. But it also can be, even with my faith and my ability to set boundaries and know that people are on their own path, it can sometimes get a little sad. It's sad to see people hurting all the time, and to do that almost every day in life. So this will run its course how it runs it, but I will always be there to serve as best possible with this teaching. That's kind of how I open it up to God. Show me the way.
Well, and it must be difficult, like just touching on what you just said about every day, seeing people and working with young people that have these beautiful futures, possibly, but they've gone into this place of addiction or dependency or whatever. And so how do you keep that from just taking over your mind? I know that you have a powerful faith. I know that.
I do.
But at times, even with that powerful faith, it's got to weigh on you at times. So
It does.
what do you do? How do you just deal with that?
Well, sometimes it's just very heartbreaking, because prior to me becoming a practitioner, I went to school for psychology, so I have a degree in psychology. And in psychology, they teach you to treat the symptom. You come in, we treat that symptom. When you become a practitioner, when people come in, you look at them as God would see them, in their perfect divine right order, because we're revealing the truth that's already there, right? So a lot of times when people will come in, I see that. You see that potential, you see that beauty, you see that creativity, especially in a younger person with so much to offer life. And then you just see them using drugs, and it's kind of like putting mud on a mirror. That person is still there, but the reflection is just all muddied. And you just want to go, no, let me clean the mirror for you. You know what, you're there. Like, I can see it all, right? It's just getting them to see it, and that can kind of be sad, because sometimes people never see it, and then they make their transition before the truth is ever known. So you see a lot of younger people, because there's such a high use now of fentanyl in a lot of the drugs that people don't even know that they're taking. And you're buying this off the street, and they're putting fentanyl in it because it cuts the cost down, or it's cheaper to put in, and people are dying. And it's a very sad job sometimes.
Yeah.
But I look at that, even if I can help one person, or I can have somebody change their reality through their beliefs, then I've done what God has, shown me to do.
Right.
And I feel super blessed because of my daughter's sobriety and how well she's doing as a young person, because it's not easy. You remember what you were like when you were young? You did. You're going to the club, you're get a little turn up going, a couple cocktails, dancing around, and she can't do that. And she's out with people that can do that, and you don't want to sit home and at 22 and never go out. So the pride that I have for what she does and how hard she works at this is just incredible. So I owe that to her. I owe that to her and I owe that to God for that peace in my life. And so whatever I do and however I can help and be of service, that's what I try to do every day. And I just know that that's really my payback of it, is that, maybe there'll be one person that I helped, and that's all I can do.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh, I think that you touch a lot more lives than that.
Well,
geez, you've been doing this now how long?
Like 4 years.
Yeah.
4 years now. So, and before that, I worked, with a lot of homeless, and so I've always kind of had my hands in the pie, if you will.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've always been busy
Yeah,
and
yeah.
doing something,
Yeah.
something outstanding, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so, when you feel, and I know sometimes you must feel discouraged, or especially when you work so hard to do this, and then you see a kid come back in. How do you deal with those feelings of just? Did you felt? Do you feel like why didn't I connect to this kid, or why can't he keep his sobriety or her sobriety or whatever? So how do you deal with that feeling of? Do you ever feel discouraged about it, or do you just?
It kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier, that everybody is on their own journey.
Right.
And you have to meet people where they're at, not where I want them to be.
Right.
So even in mental illness, sometimes I'll get somebody that's like, talking to a person that's not there next to me, and I just have to meet them where they're at. I have to acknowledge that this is what's going on. And so I feel that I try my personal best to see always the good in them and vision good for them, but ultimately God gives us freedom of choice.
Right.
And it's their choice as to how they want their existence to be on this earthly plane. And so, again, let go and let God.
Right.
And you have to do the best that you possibly can and show them that somebody is listening, show them that somebody cares and loves them. And I think that I come across as I always tell my clients, a combo of, crazy Aunt Joan that might have smoked weed with you in the bathroom at the family reunion, and your mother, okay? So I'm somewhere in between there that you can, use the language how you want to speak, how you want to express, because that's important. And there's no judgment, but I kind of, I'm going the day after Thanksgiving to the Sober Living House, and we're all going to cook. And we're going to decorate Christmas trees and make cookies. I want them to know that they can have fun, that there's somebody there that loves them. And that's all I can do, is because love is the only thing that's really going to ever change anybody. Ultimately, love of self, and loving self is God within. So, the power of God and the love of God. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, it seems like that some of the dis-ease is that they have lost connection with the love of self.
Yeah, which is God.
Right.
The God within.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a situation where they have to start recognizing that love of self, and it's kind of hard sometimes, I think, for them to do that when they've got so much guilt and shame, and then their family, maybe they're disconnected from family and everyone else. So you provide that one place that they can have that loving feeling, that you just see them as they are and you love them.
Yeah, we crack up, and you have to, and you know what? Always add a little flavor of humor in it, because when you get too serious about anything, then it gets daunting. It becomes a chore.
Right.
And staying sober and working a program, it can become daunting and monotonous and all those things. So try to add a little flavor, add a little humor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In your life.
And I know you do that.
I do my best.
You do. You make me laugh so much all the time. It's just so fun to hang out with you.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I think that we've pretty much covered it. Do you feel comfortable? Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Just want to wish everybody happy holidays, and know that the gift of your recovery or sobriety is the best gift that you can give, not only yourself, but all the family members that are there. And stay safe.
Yeah. And I would just like to say happy holidays. And at the end of this, there will be numbers for suicide hotline and different numbers that would help you, like mental health numbers and stuff, that we're going to put on there as a banner at the end of this. And so please, if you need some help, you can either call the center and you can ask for Rene or for myself, either one, and we'd be glad to do anything to help anyone out there.
And take a class
Yeah,
here. There's
take some
online, like Dr. Joe's doing a class right now, I think Back to Basics.
Right.
So good.
Yes.
Zip on in there and see if you're digging it, because you know what? That's how I started, and it kind of just gives you a foundation. I mean, you're sitting at home watching Netflix. Get off your Netflix. Try a class here. Try to do something fun. Do something good for yourself this holiday season.
Yeah. Do something, learn something new.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so I think we're at the end.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here, my bud. And also, I'd like to wish everyone a happy holidays as well, and be safe. And also, just know that someone out there, and it's us right now, we love you.
We love you.
Okay, good night.